wanted to get your opinion on the series. Who you think's going to take it?
As much as it pains me to say the New York Yankees,
Don't say it.
I think it's their time to beat the Atlanta Braves.
One last thing. You say the Yankees are going to take it. How many games do you think that it's going to take them to do it?
6.
Now, here's the man Cleveland magazine has named Sports Talk Show Host of the Year. But he's still just as humble as always. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one, the only, the greatest, Les Levine.
Well, midway through the week, boy, do we have a busy show. Look at that. Look at that. Tomorrow's Halloween, right? All right, busy night tonight. Hall of Famer, former great Cleveland Browns wide receiver Paul Warfield. He was my favorite player when I was a kid. I hate to tell him that. He will join us in studio coming up in a moment or two. And a little bit later, another wide receiver from northeastern Ohio who played at Ohio State. That'll be Mike Lanise. And Mike Lanise, of course, from WBNS down in Columbus, the flagship station of Ohio State football, will also join us. So busy night here. Tomorrow night, the guys in the know, Hal Lebovitz, of course, will be here. I don't know who else will show up with Hal. And on Friday, Tony Rizzo from WMJI Magic 105.7 and the legendary World War II hero Red will join him in studio. Hef, are you here tonight?
Yes, I am.
We are all looking forward to the appearance of Red. No big deal to have Paul Warfield. We're all a titter about having Red in the studio.
It is very cool that Paul Warfield is here.
Our email.
Let's not fool anybody.
Our email address, letstalk@sportschannel.com. That's letstalk@sportschannel.com. This just in from email. Dear Les, I happen to love your show. I watch it every night. I happen to be tired of hearing those ignorant callers complaining about Kentucky football, such as why don't they recruit better. What they ought to realize is that Kentucky is in between two major universities, Ohio State and Tennessee, so please, next time a caller calls in about Kentucky football, hang up on them. There you have it. To Les, here's a How Come Quickie. How come Bob from Orville's Red Riders are going to get beat by Worcester on Friday night? How come all of a sudden I like hockey? Go Red Wings, screw the Ravens. Les, great show last night as usual, unless you live in Orville, which might upset Wilbur. Very good. He says, listen to this, did I hear right Red on Friday from the guys in the know? I can't say what he said after that. We'll save that for another time. Other stuff
for tomorrow's show.
I have some Karnak for you.
You know, I thought we might put it on hiatus for a while.
No, we're doing this one. Ready?
Okay, go ahead.
We're doing 3 of them.
Okay.
Tom Cruise, Art Modell, Elmer.
Tom Cruise, Art Modell, Elmer.
Yeah, that's correct. Tom Cruise, Art Modell, and Elmer.
I heard you.
Name a stud, a dud, and a fud. Here's a good one, I think. Kevin Costner, Mike Fratello, and Quickies in Parma. Kevin Costner, Mike Fratello,
and Quickies in Parma.
Name a star, a czar, and a bar.
You said there were 3.
I have in my hand the last envelope.
Final envelope.
I'm ripping it open as we speak.
From the home office in Apple Creek.
Apple Creek. Pennzoil, Gerald McNeil, and David Modell.
I can answer that.
Pennzoil, Gerald McNeil, and David Modell. Name a lube, a cube, and a boob. Not bad.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
Courtesy of sports professional Bob Derry.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, on email at letstalk@sportschannel.com, you can send us some Karnak stuff. We might use them. And also, if you have some ideas for who you'd like to see or hear on the show, we'd be happy to take those suggestions also. We won't follow them, but we'll be happy to hear them. By the way, we talked about the 50 greatest players as named by the NBA yesterday. And the big one that caused the stir, of course, was Shaquille O'Neal, who I think should be in the top 80, but at this point in his career should not be in the top 50. Also notable by their absence was David Thompson, Alex English, Dominique Wilkins, Bob Lanier, Connie Hawkins, Bob McAdoo, and Joe Fulks from the old days. Now,
hey Les?
Yes.
Today,
Yes.
our crack staff
Our crack staff, the staff that, of course, is on crack.
Threw some numbers together. Can we put that up for you to look at?
Absolutely. Let's see what we have
Hit
here.
it.
All right, there you go. Now, Walton makes the team, and, of course, he won some championships. So that's...
Age. Oh, well, in Boston, but he was just...
No. He won in Portland.
He won his in Portland, then
yeah.
years later he was a 7th or 8th guy with Boston.
Right. All right, so Walton plays for 10 years, although he missed 3 or 4 because of injury. Averages 13.3 a game and 10.5 rebounds. Bob Lanier and Artis Gilmore, who did not make it. Lanier, our best friend, Bob Lanier, 20.1 points a game and a little over 10 rebounds. And Gilmore, combined with the ABA and the NBA, 18.7 and 12.2, and they don't make it. And I just, it's just a function of the marketing of the NBA. They're trying to tell you that O'Neal, who signed $100 million contract, is worth it. I'll tell you what, that's the only one I have a fault with, although I really think that Dominique Wilkins, Bob Lanier, Bob McAdoo, he was the scoring champ a couple of times, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And Connie, I'm not sure about Connie Hawkins, but I certainly think that if you take what these guys were, and we're not saying that all of those guys could play in this era and be in the top 10 or 12 players, but for what they were from a dominant standpoint and from what they were to what they brought to the game. For example, Bob Cousy could not play in today's game, or certainly wouldn't be as effective as he was, but here was a guy with a huge impact on the game as it was played at the time, and I think that's what the criteria should be. So there you have it. All right, Paul Warfield will be joining us. Do I have time to take some calls?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. Let's start with Scott in Sagamore Hills. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Les.
How you doing?
Not too bad. I
Good.
had a couple questions about the Tribe.
Okay.
First of all, if we do lose Albert to free agency, who do you think the Tribe will go after? And second of all, to replace Albert. And second of all, don't you think we need should be concerned about our pitching staff with the age and letting pitchers like Jeff Becerra get away from us?
Well, it's not a case of getting away from him. You're assuming that Cleveland was the only one in the bidding. Obviously, Seattle got a pretty good, gave up a pretty good package to get him. So, a lot of times when you don't get players or in free agency or you don't get them in trades, you sometimes assume that we didn't do everything you could do. You forget there's 28 other teams out there, or 27 other teams that are trying to get the same kind of a player. So it's not always a case where you just blame the Indians or any team for not getting them. Big lineup on Sports Channel tomorrow coming your way, and of course we'll be here with the guys in the know. Tomorrow night, Bill Needle will have the MAC Now at 5 o'clock, followed by Bill again with Kent Flashback at 5:30. 9 o'clock, the Sporting News NBA preview as the NBA opens up on Friday night, and at 11 it'll be the Fantasy Football Weekly, and of course they may not be seen in all areas. That's tomorrow night on Sports Channel. Let's move on to North Royalton where Dave is standing by. Hi, Dave.
How you doing, Les?
All right, Dave.
Tonight? Every night.
Thank you.
My question is do you kind of a follow-up question to the former caller? Would you think it's in the Tribe's best interest to maybe let Albert go and think about signing Ken Lofty and some pitching?
Well, first of all, Ken Lofton's going to do the same thing that Bell did. My guess is, as of now, he'll sit out. He'll play out the season and then file for free agency to see what's out there. So just because you're assuming you're going to save that money by not signing Bell doesn't mean that Lofton's going to agree to it also. I think that remember, the Indians came close in 94 with the strike, came close in 95 losing in the World Series, and this year just make the playoffs. If they don't sign Albert Bell, they're almost back in a rebuilding stage, and they can't recreate what they've got.
Can we keep them both?
Well, money-wise? Probably.
Yeah.
My guess is that Albert can be satisfied if the money is right here. My guess is that Kenny Lofton wants out after next year. And I thank you for the call. Paul Warfield will be joining us, another Hall of Famer here, live on Sports Channel.
Let's get back to More Sports Channel and Les Levine.
Back, More Sports Channel and Les Levine. Tomorrow night we will take all of our postcards that were sent into casino sales, and we will pick out a winner. Somebody's going to win a trip to Atlantic City. That'll be tomorrow night. Casino Sales specializes in casino packages to various gaming destinations around the country, including Atlantic City, Las Vegas, Bahamas, Connecticut, and Mississippi, and its new destination, Laughlin, Nevada, coming up with departures from Columbus on November 1st and 4th, and from Dayton on the 4th and the 7th. They offer up to 20 flights per month out of Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, and Youngstown. Casino Sales, the largest operator into Atlantic City. You can call them at 1-800-355-7636. And it's too late because, well, if you can get it in and get it in by noon tomorrow to that address, P.O. Box 22715, Cleveland 44122, then we'll be able to get it into our batch. And, of course, the post office where I picked it up is where I bumped into Paul Warfield today. And I extended an invitation. I said, sometime in the next year, Paul, we'd love to have you on. And you said, how about tonight? I love your show. No, you didn't really say that. Tonight is better. Great to see you.
Much better for me.
Can I admit this now that my favorite player in the 50s for the Browns was Ray the Rabbit Renfro.
Well, ironically, he's one of my favorite players also.
Well, but then you replaced him as my favorite player.
Well, let me say this about Ray Renfro. He was very instrumental in my development as a wide receiver. As a matter of fact, I'm going to reveal something to you if you perhaps didn't already know it, that Ray was hired as my personal tutor for 6 weeks when I first joined the Cleveland Browns. He taught me everything that I ever knew really about the execution of pass pattern receiving and running.
He was my favorite player?
I mean, he was a great teacher, Yeah. What he gave me was a combination of skill instruction, but he gave me all of the knowledge of a 12-year veteran, and for a rookie in his first year, he put me so much further ahead.
Right. You know, now I will reveal something. As a kid, I was speaking of Halloween here, I was trick-or-treating in my neighborhood in South Euclid, and I knock on a door on Bayard Road, and I didn't know that Ray Renfro lived in that house.
Is that right?
And he answers the door, and my eyes lit up. I couldn't believe it. But then, so he was my favorite player of the 50s, and then along comes this guy, Paul Warfield, and it's a name that those of us in Northeastern Ohio, we heard. You know, you heard the reputation out of Warren Harding and then Ohio State, and having watched games at Ohio State in the early, you know, when you were there, I remember he was a great defensive back. You know, because players went both ways in those days.
Those were the days of two ways and limited substitution in football, and I had to play defense, and I liked offense a lot better, but...
yeah, but Woody was there, so what good was that?
Well, I probably earned a little bit better reputation defensively as a player because of the limited opportunities on offense.
Yeah. What was that like? We're going to have Mike Lanise on later from the Ohio State Radio Network. We'll talk to him a little later. And he, of course, was a fine receiver in the 80s with Ohio State. What was it like to come out of that tunnel and into the horseshoe and in front of, in those days, maybe 82, 83,000? What was that like?
Well, you know, there's a tremendous football tradition that's down there, and you're very much made aware of who has preceded you and your place in time while you're there. And then, of course, every Saturday afternoon is a great part of that tradition. The then 4,000 people who were there and coming out of the tunnel and feeling the excitement in the air certainly was inspiring.
Yeah. I'm wearing my scarlet and gray for you tonight. I do that on Wednesdays. Woody Hayes. What recollections of Woody Hayes?
Wow, there are a lot of
good or bad?
Well, I think good for the most part, certainly. I didn't always agree with the style of football because it didn't particularly suit
but you knew that going
my
in,
needs.
You knew it going in.
Well, I kind of knew that going in, but still you hope things will change. But his style of football was mainly fullback-oriented offense. And kiddingly, I saw Bo Schembechler about a month ago when we celebrated a reunion of the 1961 national championship team down at Ohio Stadium. And he says, well, you know, we were real smart at Ohio State. We made Paul Warfield a blocking back. And it was really funny, but Bo can be a very funny man, and it was a great relationship that I had with him. But by and large, my relationship with Woody Hayes was certainly a good one. I had the utmost respect for him because he was a man of integrity, a man of compassion, which a lot of people really don't understand when you use the word compassion about Woody Hayes. And he was certainly a pioneer in a sense that he was one of the football coaches who could graduate, make sure that the percentage of his athletes graduated from college, and yet win national titles and Big Ten titles too. So he was really dedicated to making sure each and every one of us came through that university and received a great education. And so all of us didn't play as starters on the Ohio State University football team, but he really felt that the great job that he could do for young men was to help them develop and to give them something so that they could leave the university and go back to their communities and make their communities, good communities in the state of Ohio.
In those days, with all the scholarships, and I know for a fact, and I don't want to mention a name because when I went to Ohio State, I became friendly with a running back who was a great running back in high school, highly recruited. They didn't use him at all at Ohio State, and he found out that basically he was signed to a scholarship at Ohio State just to keep him away from one of the other schools that wanted him. In other words, he was buried as the third or fourth running back. And in those days, I guess you could do that because you had more scholarships. But you had maybe 100 guys dressing for games. Did Woody know each one personally? I mean, he would have known the 99th guy on the roster?
Absolutely. And he knew every player intimately, whether you were a starting player or if you were, in the case that you're reiterating to, the 99th person on that roster.
Yeah.
And he felt committed to all of these people. And as I said, yes, you're right. A lot of kids who went to school there who were great high school football players never played, but he never felt like he cheated anyone simply because he provided for them a great education. And if you talk to those individuals today, they would agree with you.
Yeah. Did you? It isn't that way now because some Ohio stars wind up at Michigan and wind up other places. Did you feel not an obligation, but was there pressure to wind up at Ohio State? Because in those days, you weren't on television every week, and so your family and friends wouldn't have seen you if you went to Southern Cal or someplace like that. So did you know? When did you know you wanted to go to Ohio State? As a kid?
No, not really. I didn't know I wanted to go to Ohio State until my senior year in high school. Okay. And the more I learned about the institution and about Woody Hayes and the football program, I narrowed my choices down to the University of Iowa and Ohio State. And I came very close to going to the University of Iowa.
Who was there, Evashevsky at that time?
Evashevsky was there at the time, and a great coach in his own right. The thing that dissuaded me from going to Iowa was the fact that it was over 600 miles away.
Right.
And we're talking about 1960.
Right.
Now, the network of interstate highway system hadn't been completed completely.
You couldn't get to Iowa from here.
And you couldn't get to Iowa in 12 hours.
Yeah.
So it was really a couple of days trip. And so, I was a native of the state of Ohio. Columbus is only 2 or 3 hours away from my hometown of Warren. And so I didn't really want to go that far away from home, unlike most kids at that age.
What about, all right, let's move up in time. You get drafted by the Browns after 1963 into the 64 season, which turns out to be a championship season. You find out you get drafted by the Browns. Is that a dream come true or not?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up here in Northeast Ohio, and I know the history of that organization, of the former organization, which will soon be, hopefully in the next couple of years, another organization. I knew all of the great players, whether you're talking about Otto Graham, you're talking about Frank Gadsky, or Bill Willis, Marion Motley.
Jim Brown.
Later, Jim Brown, Bobby Mitchell. I knew them all. I followed them. And so for me, a youngster who came from nearby Warren, Ohio, who grew up steeped in this tradition here and knew about the legend of Paul Brown and the greatness of the Browns, it was like a dream come true for me to be drafted on the Browns.
You play for Woody Hayes. You play for, you missed out on Paul Brown, but you wind up with Blanton Collier. You wind up in Miami with Don Shula. Who was your coach at the Memphis Southmen or the Toronto Northmen? Who was that? Do you remember?
John McVay.
John McVay. Well, we won't count him.
But he's done great things with the San Francisco 49er organization. He's an administrator. Has been out there with the DeBartolo's for at least 15, almost 20 years.
Who when you came back to the Browns, who was the head coach?
When I came back here, Forrest Gregg was the head coach here then.
So you had some pretty good mentors.
I've played for great head coaches, going all the way back to high school, and when I got started even in grammar school football in Warren. My high school coach was the man who presented me for induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a man by the name of Gene Slaughter. And ironically, had it not been for Gene Slaughter, I probably never would have played football because I was a better baseball player.
Is that right? No kidding. You didn't play at Ohio State, did you?
No, I didn't, because I ran track.
You ran track, yeah. So you would make it for a long day to run track and then go over and play baseball.
Well, the difficulty for me as a high school athlete as well as a collegiate athlete was trying to combine two spring sports, track and field and football. So I'd always go home for summers from Ohio State, and I'd play in the summer leagues.
You could have been Deion Sanders before Deion Sanders. Did you, in your mind, do you think you could have played pro baseball?
I think so, sure.
Really?
Well, I mean, I had a number of offers to play, to come out ever since I was about 17 years old.
Yeah. I think you could have done just about anything you wanted to do.
Well, I don't know about that, but I really had a firm background in baseball, and started with my uncle who worked with me when I was a kid, and from the time that I was a youngster up until I got to high school,
Right.
I was a very fine baseball player, and played, right up to signing a football contract, and had numerous opportunities to sign a baseball contract.
So we need to take a break here in a moment. But you must have thought, wow, this program's easy. This pro game is easy because you wind up with the Browns in '64, you win a championship, and you figure, wow, that's this is an easy game here.
No. Ironically, I didn't feel that way. I knew, going to Hiram College, and I can recall this very vividly, it represented the unknown. It represented I'm going up to the next level, professional football. I had always watched the Browns play on television. I watched Jim Brown. I watched the great players. I didn't really know whether I was good enough to play. There's always that moment of self-doubt that you have until you're actually there.
Yeah, well, you were, by the way. You were good enough.
It worked out.
Hall of Famer Paul Warfield is with us. We'll continue with him live on Sports Channel.
My name's Dante Gluefingers Lavelle, and I want to say keep watching Les Levine and Italian Cuisine on Sports Channel.
Now, here's the man Cleveland Magazine has named Sports Talk Show Host of the Year. But he's still just as humble as always. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one, the only, the greatest, Les Levine.
Welcome back. More Sports Channel and Les Levine. And tomorrow night, Hal Lebovitz will join us, one of our guys in the know. And on Friday, the infamous Red will join us, the World War II hero of the Battle of the Bulge, who gave all the advice to General Patton throughout the war years. He will join us to talk Ohio State football. Paul Warfield, you'll be happy to know, Red, an alumnus of Ohio State, long before you were there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and we're going to sing Carmen, Ohio. When it's all over. Would you like to sing it with me? It's tradition.
I know both. I know Carmen, Ohio, and I also know Hail to the Victors.
All right, on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, if I did Hail to the Victors, that would be blasphemous.
All right, then, let's do Carmen, Ohio. Go ahead. You want to do it? I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to do it.
No, I can only do it with Red.
Well,
I want to hear.
No.
You don't want to do it? Okay.
I don't think the audience really wants to hear my voice.
Why would you know Hail to the Victors? Why would you do that, Paul?
Well, I play golf with a group of Michigan guys.
Ah, okay.
And we play in an event every year out at Pebble Beach.
Right.
And when I first learned that I had to play with these guys from Michigan, I said, look, I'll play with you guys on one condition. And we play in a team format. I said, every birdie putt that I make for this team, you have to sing Fight the Team Across the Field. And so they said, well, that's good, but what's fair that every birdie putt the four of us make, then you have to sing Hail to the Victors.
Excellent.
And so,
that's fun.
we have a lot of fun together, and they're really good guys.
Ahaf, when I go to Thistledown, when I was there with all the football games on Sunday, I guarantee you that Paul could have outrun the horse that I bet on. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
I don't know if that's a compliment or he's ripping you, Paul.
It's both. No. It's ripping me for the way I bet on horses, and it's complimenting Paul, who's about the fastest guy I've ever seen. Anyway, great action at Thistledown each and every day, 7 days a week, and you can of course get in on all the action with the simulcast, full card simulcasting, day and night, every day at Thistledown. Paul Warfield is with us. Paul, I've started making notes when I knew you were going to come, and the more you think about it, I could spend hours, well, not hours, but segments on each portion of your career. Let's move up to Miami and the undefeated team with the no-name defense. And Bob, it seems to me that Bob Greasy, with the way Bob Greasy played the game, and he didn't put up huge numbers, didn't have to with that team.
Right.
But I don't know if that's, I guess because you went 17-0, you get an argument that it's the greatest team ever, but everybody seemed to complement each other. Your pass patterns with Greasy was timed to perfection, and then you had Zonka and Kick and everybody else, and I'm not going to say it was the greatest team of all time. You might think that it was, but it was a pretty good team.
Well, what I will say, Les, is that it was the perhaps greatest team for 1 year.
Yes, well,
and
17-0, it'd have to be.
That reflects that. I think what has been lost in the years that have passed, there seems to be more emphasis on teams, of course, in current day. But that was a very unique football team. And to give you an indication of the greatness of that team, we lost Bob Greasy during that season after the fourth ball game, and he didn't return until halftime when we were in Three Rivers Stadium and behind in a ball game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
How late in the season was that?
Well, that was the second game. That was the AFC Championship game, and we were playing for the right to get back into the Super Bowl, and we won that ball game. So, how many times do you hear or have you seen during the course of a season when the quarterback goes down and the team's fortunes just roll right off the table? I mean, you know, or if, for example, down in Miami right now with Dan Marino, he's just returned to the lineup last week, but they don't function very well. Or if you took John Elway out of the lineup in Denver, the Denver Broncos would be in a lot of trouble too. Sure. So it was a testament to that team, the way it was built, that not only do we lose our all-pro quarterback, Earl Morrall comes in, who's probably the best, if you want to call him, a relief pitcher
in the history
in a pro football context to lead us on. But still, when you lose a top-flight performer for better than half the year and able to win a divisional championship and to win the first game in the playoffs, and then, of course, he comes back to bail us out in the second half of the Pittsburgh game, that's really saying a lot.
Why didn't they put Garo Yepremian in to throw? he waited till the Super Bowl to do that.
Well, you know, Garo was a very valuable guy because he was one of the best kickers along with Stenerud during that particular period. But
what were you thinking
the art of throwing the football was not his.
What were you guys on the bench? You had a 14-0 lead, right?
Yeah. The game wasn't really close. I mean,
agree with that.
We actually scored 21 points in the first half, one touchdown pass. As a matter of fact, one of the few TD passes that I caught, there was a penalty called on it. In my entire career, I was very fortunate that most of the time that I scored, you know, penalties were not called.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
But in that particular instance, so we really would have had a 21-0 lead at halftime.
The only thing I can get from that is you were the guy doing the penalty. If there was no penalty when you scored, it was obviously you creating the penalty.
No, it was the penalty was actually my counterpart or colleague on the other side, Marlon Briscoe, who had just nudged before the ball was snapped.
All right, so you're up 14-0, and Garo throws the ball up into the air, and Bass runs it for a touchdown. What's going on in everybody's mind?
Well, you know, ironically, it was really a storybook season because of all the things that had happened. We were undefeated. But think about this. We were lining up for a field goal to add the 17th point. Put
the game away.
To put it well, it would have been the 17th point in a 17-game season. We would have beaten Washington 17-0. Our record was 17-0 and undefeated. But as fate would be, the kick was blocked, unfortunately, and the ball somehow wound up in Yepremian's hands. And Garo's was a professional soccer player in Europe years ago, and so he knew very little about the game. He did know that if you kicked the ball through the uprights, it was 3 points. It came to him, and for some unknown reason, he decided that he was going to throw the pass away, and of course, everybody knows what happened. But when you're standing on the sidelines and you've had complete control of the football game for nearly 58 minutes, and then one play turns the fate of that ball game around because, you know, they go in and score, I believe it is.
Yeah, they scored on the play.
They scored on the play. They're only one touchdown away from tying us. They're going to kick off. They have the best special teams in all of pro football that year, so you know it's an onside kick, and they've got a 50% chance of getting it. And conceivably, they could score another touchdown.
And you guys are down at that point.
Yeah, completely out of the ball game.
Did you guys want to just strangle the guy with his ties that he made?
Well, I don't think that Garo had very many friends, and I don't think he could have sold very many ties. He was very fortunate that we were able to get out of that.
Let me go backtrack a few years. You're a hometown, Northeast Ohio. You're a hero here. You had a great career with the Browns, first time around. And then the Browns need a quarterback, so they decide to trade to Miami for what turns out to be Mike Phipps, who I think most people who saw him in college would have said this guy was going to be a great pro. I mean, I'm not trying to justify the trade, but they needed a quarterback, and this, in the litany of Art Modell, that just becomes one more mistake that he made over the years. But at least there was logic behind it. It was a very unpopular move at the time. How did it hit you?
Well, from a personal standpoint, this was the perfect situation for me, the perfect environment. I was playing for the team that I loved as a kid. I was playing just 50 miles away from friends, parents, and it was a natural. And in addition to that, I had developed stability within the organization and just felt like I would probably end my career as a Cleveland Brown, and that's what I really wanted more than anything else. So quite naturally, when I received a phone call in January of '70 informing me that I had been traded, and I spoke to Art Modell personally concerning that, it came as I said later, as a great surprise. I'm never shocked. I'm very rarely shocked about anything that happens, So I said it came as a great surprise, but that's part of the business, and I think that one has to accept that. Now, I didn't want to go to Miami because it was one of the worst teams in pro football at the time, and I was perfectly happy here, but nonetheless,
the weather's better.
Well, it's infinitely better, at least at certain times of the year. But nonetheless, as I said, it's part of professional sports. It's the part of the industry that you might say is a little bit colder and a little bit more callous, because we all like to think that, you're rewarded for being loyal, you're rewarded for being good, but it's business. Yeah. And sometimes that infringes on the personal side of it.
All right, speaking of business, what are you doing now?
Well, business-wise, I've been in the sports apparel business, and my company is joint ventured with a firm in Miami, Florida, called Dynasty Apparel, Inc. And Dynasty is a manufacturer of T-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, golf shirts, as well as denim shirts.
Why didn't we talk to you for these?
Program.
Why didn't we talk to you for these fabulous How Come Quickie T-shirts that will go on sale starting Friday?
Well, I like the graphics on that, Les,
and the
it
back
looks very
too?
Nice. But you certainly could have talked to us, and we would have been able to do that, or we would have given you some other creative design.
Well, the sweatshirt we have here, and of course the mug. Do you do mugs also?
We don't
I think Paul's saying a better design.
We don't.
No, we're more interested in better pricing.
Pricing, we may be able to work with you on that.
When
Obviously.
we sell out of all 7 shirts that we're going to sell on starting on Friday, we'll call you for a reorder.
Well, let me say we're looking for a little bit more volume than that, but we can
So
talk
are we.
about it.
So are we. Then you come back to the Browns. I keep jumping back and forth. You come back to the Browns, and they stick you with those ugly orange pants.
Yeah. I've got my vivid memories of what Cleveland Browns uniforms look like.
Right, and that wasn't it.
Orange pants were not a part of that, but nonetheless, I wanted to come back to the organization. I found myself in a very unique position after the failing of the World Football League. I was a so-called free agent, before free agency was possible.
Right.
And at that point, I only wanted to play 2 more years in my career. My desire was to come back to Cleveland, come back to home and play, and also try to help this organization to get moving back in the right direction.
Yeah. How did last year's events with the Browns picking up stakes, what did that do to you?
Well, really tragic. Tragic that this area here that has been so great for pro football, and the fans who have been so great for football, find themselves in a position where they don't have a team to support. And so that was really tragic. But I think rather than to dwell on what has happened in the past, I think the best thing that has occurred out of all this is that pro football will be returning, and it will be a Browns team in the future, perhaps with the same team colors, tradition, and so forth. And so, that's really a first, because I think when all these other pro football teams left other areas, no one knew if they'd ever come back again. Right. But at least that was leveraged out of this, all of those negotiations. And so now I think the right thing for Clevelanders to do is really just to concentrate on the future and concentrate on what this can be again, and starting a new tradition with the Browns again, and it can be great.
Do you want to be involved somehow?
I would not be opposed to being involved. You never say never, as the old saying goes. It remains to be seen what group of ownership is going to emerge, and certainly I have background and experience in professional sports administration, and I would not be opposed to being a part of that.
And you know they'll need T-shirts and sweatshirts.
Well, of course, and if we sell more than 7, we can probably invest
You think
ourselves.
we can generate some volume there? Huh?
Well, speaking of apparel, for being our guest in the studio, Paul receives a gift certificate from the Hugo Boss Factory Outlet, and 30 to 60% off retail prices each and every day. Hugo Boss at 2149 West 53rd Street. Paul, for me, personal pleasure to have you with us, and good luck. You're going down to Florida for a while, and you'll be back?
Well, I go down and I won't be back until next summer.
Well, we're going to have you back on, okay?
Okay, I'd love to do that.
Thank
and
you.
we'll have to bump in more often than at the post office.
Very good. Paul Warfield, one of the all-time greats, Hall of Famer with the Cleveland Browns and Miami Dolphins. We'll come back with Michael Anise in a moment, live on Sports Channel.
Sports Channel proudly and carefully presents More Sports Channel and Les Levine.
Welcome back, More Sports Channel and Les Levine. I don't care about you as the audience. Yes, I do. But for me to talk to Paul Warfield was like that.
You know, it was
a
just
real
different
treat.
here tonight.
Why?
With him in the building, it was just real special.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Let's see. We've had Dante Lavelli and now Paul.
Otto Orff?
I met Otto Orff. A couple of Hall of Famers, not too bad. Hall of Fame of restaurants would be Cindy at Alfonso's. Hi, Cindy.
Les?
Yes, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm terrific. What's going on?
What a great show.
Tonight?
Tonight and every night.
Hey,
No,
by
today.
the way, speaking of counter-plugging, I understand you were at Elsner's the other night.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
We surprised him.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I listened. I watched you last night.
I see. How you doing?
I'm good.
How'd you do on all the pasta you could eat yesterday?
We did great. We had a nice night.
Terrific.
And you know what? Al from Elsner's is going to come to our place with his family.
Well, that's great. You go from east side, west side, all around the town.
That's me.
Yeah, of course, Alfonso's at West 130th and Sprague, right where 4 great communities all come together, very conveniently located. What else is going on out at Alfonso's? No more clam bake, right?
No, the clam bake is over
All
for
right.
this year. Now we have our wonderful specials for this weekend, or all week, really. We have the Cindy Seafood Pasta special with the shrimp and mussels and scallops.
Okay.
And your choice of pasta goes with it.
All right. My choice or their choice?
Their choice.
Okay.
Your choice too.
Okay.
And let's see, we had the penny casserole with the melted, but 3-cheese casserole.
Right.
And
Sounds pretty good to me. You know, all the stuff at the restaurant, all the orders can be taken to go. Give me that phone number.
It's 845
Right.
9610.
845-9610, and they can personally talk to Cindy, right?
Yes, they can. I'm there.
All right, Cindy, have a great night. We're sorry we kept you up so late.
Oh, I'm up.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cindy. And, of course, part of More Cuisine and Les Levine. Fresh Cut Deli at 427 West Bagley, 2 miles west of Baldwin Wallace. If you go past the tracks, you went too far. And they've got deli party trays, just $3.50 per person. And it's open daily at 11. Kitchen's open until 2 a.m. That's for both Fresh Cut Deli and Zach's Place. University Inn, where President Clinton ate lunch one day. University Inn, just off the Abbey Road exit of I-71, just out of downtown Cleveland. Terrific cafeteria food. Every time you go in there, you see people that go in and day out because they know they don't have to go anywhere else. University Inn, that, of course, in the Tremont area. Now, we are going to go from one great wide receiver from Ohio State, Paul Warfield, to another one, Mike Lanise. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Les. How are you?
Terrific. Thanks for bearing with us a little bit late tonight. We got, of course, Mike, part of the broadcast team on WBNS, the flagship station of Ohio State football. Mike, we got an email in, and it says, during your Buckeye preview, can you please ask Mike Lanise why the Bucs are not putting teams away? It seems the Buckeyes had Iowa leaning on the ropes, but they didn't deliver the knockout blow. So that's the question we seem to get a lot of. Why are they getting out to the early lead and then hanging on for dear life?
Yeah, I mean, people are complaining. We're 7-0 and they're complaining. Go figure.
Well, but is that a legitimate are they running out of steam maybe physically?
No, not at all. You're in Iowa after all. The first thing you want to do is leave Iowa, so you start looking at your watch.
Right.
The guys got a little bit flat in the third quarter, but nothing to be worried about.
Well, Mike, one thing that did seem to stand out is or people seem to question, is the use of certain first stringers on special teams, especially late in the game. Is that a problem?
No, the kid that ran it back, Tim Dwight, is a super athlete. Let's not take anything away from him. It's not what Ohio State did or didn't do. He just had a great return.
No, I understand that, but is it possible? Aren't there more other guys on the team, maybe the second liners, who might be more effective because they'll be fresher on the special teams?
Yeah, there's the argument to be made, but by and large, I think busy people do well. And so you get your first teamers in there who know what they're doing, who understand the stakes of the season. My preference would be to have the first teamers play the entire game.
Really?
It sure would.
All right, I'll tell you what, let's go to the phones. Mike Lanise is with us. Chris is in Alliance. Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Les? Great
Good.
show.
Tonight?
Yeah, that and Sunday.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask Mike a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to say I think Ohio State's just getting lucky this year. But I think they're going to start losing the rest of their games. They're going to have no chance at anything.
All right, Mike, don't even worry about that. Let's go to Avon is calling. Chris is in Avon. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, good show tonight, Les.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a question for you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
About a couple of the freshmen this year. Where's Nick Goings fitting in on the depth chart, and are they looking to redshirt him? And how's the progress of the California linebacker, Neil Diggs?
Yeah, I can tell you about Nick Goins. He played earlier in the year. He's been hurt. He had a stinger, some shoulder problems. So I know they want to try to redshirt him for this year. Up until that point, though, they wanted to play him. In fact, he could have stepped in at the number 2 position if he'd been healthy. As for the California linebacker, don't know.
Let's go to Randy in Bowling Green. Hi, Randy.
Hey, Les, how you doing?
All right, and you?
Love your show.
Thank you.
What do you think the shot of the Buckeyes winning the national championship is this year?
Yeah. I think it's huge. Yeah, of course, you've always got the bowl alliance thing hanging over your head, Florida and all that. But, stranger things can happen. It's going to be a question of where they are going into the bowl game, where Florida is, where Arizona State winds up. You never know. I think more intriguing, though, what's going to happen with Orlando Pace. Can he win the Heisman from where he is right now? I think the answer is definitely yes.
Well, it's interesting because now I've heard several reporters around the country now talking about that because Warfield, although Warfield had the early lead, there seems to be, I don't want to say a groundswell, but there seems to be some stirring for Orlando right now.
If you vote for the best player in college football,
right,
there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't vote for Orlando.
Paul's in Talmadge. Hi, Paul.
How you doing, Les?
Good. Speak up.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Is this team going to be flat for Minnesota?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's enough criticism floating around right now, both inside the team and outside with some of the fans, to motivate them to put some points on the board. But more importantly, just to shore up some of their offensive problems. They need to put yardage on the board as well as points this week. I'd like to see them run for 200-300 yards, throw the ball for another 300 yards.
Let's go to Keith in Dublin. Hi, Keith.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, and you?
Mike, do you think the Bucs are holding out and not showing anything just to wait for the Michigan game?
Some people have said that, and you never can be quite sure. I'd like to see them start throwing the ball deep a little bit. I think they've pretty much neglected the deep thirds of the field.
You want Jackson thrown deep or Jermaine?
It doesn't really matter. Both of them have great arms.
Okay.
Jackson has a cannon, by the way. Not many people know that about him. But for whatever reason, they've chosen really to stick to the middle of the field, intermediate routes. I'd like to see him go backside post a few times, run a couple of fade routes, just put pressure, particularly on the free safety, who starts to nose up game in, game out. We see the free safety getting real nosy, putting a lot of pressure on the running game.
Our Ohio State report brought to you by Independence Communications. You got to stay on top of business communications by calling Don DiGeronimo and his staff at Independence Communications. Call them at 1-800-524-MOTO. Independence Communication, an authorized Motorola two-way radio dealer, Northern Ohio's premier provider of portable and mobile two-way radios, as well as wide area mobile dispatch systems, special event rental communication systems, and much more. You can purchase, lease, and rent. Those options are available on all systems, and training is provided absolutely free. Call anywhere in the state of Ohio at 1-800-524-MOTO. That's 1-800-524-6686. Joe in Massillon, you're on with Mike Lanise. Go ahead.
All right, hey, Les. First of all, really quick, I got a good Karnak for you I've been thinking of forever.
Hurry up.
You got it. Joe Friday, Pepsi, and Les Levine. Name a cop, a pop, and a flop.
Thank you for the call. Let's go to Larry in Chardon. Hi, Larry.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Terrific.
Okay, I had a interesting question. I've been reading in the papers that Michigan is in control of their own destiny outside of Ohio State, which obviously is not the case if Northwestern would win out. But hypothetically, what happens if Northwestern, Michigan, and Ohio State all three tie at 7-1 atop the
Ohio
Big Ten?
State? They were they haven't gone in the longest time.
Negative. I don't think that's true.
Why? What is it?
I think Michigan goes. If Michigan beats Ohio State, Michigan goes.
Oh, that's right. Only because because Ohio State didn't play Northwestern. If it would have been a round robin with the loss, yeah, you're right. Okay. And then by virtue of that, they would go up against Northwestern, and since Northwestern beat them head to head.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's rather confusing. I don't see the three didn't play each other, so how do you eliminate anybody from that grouping?
Well, you know what? We're going to check on that because Northwestern did beat Michigan, and their argument was they beat them head to head.
Yeah, exactly.
My understanding it would have been Ohio State because of the length of time.
My guess is Northwestern because against the three they're 1-0-1, right?
All right, we'll find out. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. The Provoker, you're on with Mike Lanise. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Les. Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
I had a two-part question. Les, one is, do the college players, Mike, when you played, do you guys look at point spreads from week to week? Do you guys talk about it?
They shouldn't be anyway.
And the other question would be, the Buckeyes seem susceptible to the deep pass. Is Cooper addressing that, and do you think that'll get fixed?
Yeah, I think they've looked susceptible only to one route on about 4 different occasions this year. It's that out and up route, the ladder route, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how many times it's going to take to get burned by it to finally cover it, but by and large, their deep coverage, their intermediate coverage has been terrific, particularly when they play man coverage. Winfield's done a great job stepping in for Ty Howard, and of course Sean Springs on the other corner is just super. Nobody throws at him, so you don't really see him very much anymore. But I think they've done a great job, particularly in man coverage, but also now that the linebacker situation's gotten real firm, with Katzenmoyer getting deep in his drops, as you saw last week with an interception about 20 yards from the line of scrimmage. That really is the least of their problems. Defense, frankly, is a little bit ahead of the offense right now.
All right, Mike, time for us to go. We're heading toward the end, and as always, we appreciate you spending part of a Wednesday night with us, and we're looking forward to listening, although I'll be down at the game on Saturday, of course, each and every week on the Ohio State Radio Network from WBNS. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for having me, Les.
Good to talk to you.
Okay, take care now.
All right, that is Mike Lanise, and of course our Ohio State report brought to you by Independence Communications. Call 1-800-524-MOTO. That's 1-800-524-6686 for information on Motorola radio systems. This has been the quickest show in the history of mankind. We'll come back with How Come Quickies in a moment. More Sports Channel and Les Levine continues.
It's time for How Come Quickies.
And, of course, How Come Quickies brought to you by Quickies Bar and Grill, 5486 State Road in Parma, just a mile south of Brook Park and the I-480 State Road exit. Tomorrow night, Thursday, it's Ladies' Night. Complimentary drinks from 9 p.m. until 1 a.m. Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. The dancing at Quickies. DJs on Friday and Saturday, and then oldies on Sunday at Quickies Bar and Grill, 5486 State Road in Parma.
Did you say complimentary drinks 9 to 1?
9 p.m. until 1 a.m.
Whoa, that might get a little ugly.
Yes. Well, no, by midnight they won't look so ugly.
Start ugly and by midnight, boy.
No, they won't look so ugly by midnight.
Not at all.
No. Hey, people are standing by. We kept them up late at Cleveland State. I promised we'd sell 200 season tickets, and we're on our way. And you can call right now, no matter if you're watching us at night or in the afternoon. Call now, 687-4848. Best seats in the house, 10 games, $140. Cleveland State tickets, it's $10 a game, and anybody who buys one of the season tickets will be eligible to win a trip for 2 to the Michigan State game. You'll go up with me to that Michigan State game when we do the game here on Sports Channel. And, of course, you've got Georgetown and Michigan coming up soon. In fact, the 23rd is the first game, the Georgetown game. Call right now, 687-4848. Tell them you heard about this special offer here on Sports Channel. Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come Albert Bell's going to play in Japan next year?
Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come Orlando Pace can't be a quarterback so he can win the Heisman?
Give me a How Come Quickie. Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come Jerry Jones told Michael Irvin that Pepsi and Nike?
Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come I'm glad you're on the air?
Give me a How Come Quickie. So far we're tied 1-1.
That's right.
Give me a How Come Quickie.
Hey, Les, how come you don't like Indonesian folk?
I've never met one I didn't like. Never met an Indonesian.
That you know of.
Give me a How Come Quickie.
Yeah, how come anybody would pay $140 for Cleveland State season tickets?
It's the best sports value in town. Give me, except for How Come Quickie T-shirts and sweatshirts coming up on Friday. Give me a How Come Quickie.
Yes, Taylor. How come with the new pumpkin on the set, we don't call the show More Gourds and Less Levine?
Very good.
Give me a How Come Quickie.
Yes, how come the difference between a snowman and a snow...
Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come you have a sports show but you have no clue about the tiebreaker in Big Ten? It's so easy.
What is it,
New York
sir?
Yankees rule.
Yeah. Give me a How Come Quickie.
Yeah, I got a quickie for Les.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, how come Roland Garrett just moved?
Well,
don't tell me that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that Info Data knows that already. And if you call them at 514-1400, or yeah, because everybody now, we all told him he's in Jackson, Mississippi, so we moved out.
Right.
1-800-750-2101. They can find anybody. They found Roland Garrett. They'll do background checks on anyone. If you've ever wondered about anybody in your past, call Info Data. They are private investigators and research analysts. They have the access to the world of information. Info Data, a private investigation firm that's been in business for over 23 years. In Cleveland, call 514-1400 or 1-800-750-2101. Give me a How Come Quickie.
Take them outside, toss them to back in.
Give me a How Come Quickie.
Look out, please.
Give me a How Come Quickie.
How come no one ever mentions the Coventry Common?
Give me a How Come Quickie.
Yes, how come when I win?
All right, that'll do it for tonight. Thanks to Paul Warfield and to Mike Lanise. Hal Lebovitz, the guys in the know tomorrow, Friday, Tony Rizzo and Red. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.